Yeah. So I'm sitting here. Mostly because I just feel like it. Child molester verse has got to start instantaneously. Doesn't make me have to cough until I start the recording. Just to fuck up the normalization of the audio and make me actually talking sound quieter than it would have otherwise. Again, just another way to try to silence and censor me. Perfect way to start the fucking video. Oh, like I said, this psychotic prison reality has just been all out recently, just fucking with me on everything. Which is part of the reason I'm sitting here, because I'm just sick of it. And I really don't know what to think anymore about anything. So, whatever, I don't know. Because I went to, I just dropped something off at storage. Not, nothing major. Basically, what happened was, I was sitting in front of my computer trying to, deal with existence. And there's this one guy I used to watch a lot. At this point, I looked at the date on the videos. It's been 4 or 5 years since those videos were made. I'm just sitting there just trying to be alone with my misery. And at a point, I don't know if I just looked around or maybe I got up to kind of stretch out a bit or whatever. But I looked up, and like behind me on the wall was a fucking huge spider. And I couldn't tell what kind of spider it was, but it didn't look, venomous, poisonous, whatever the fuck they want to call it. It really doesn't matter. I might get into the language shit here in a minute, but whichever word you're supposed to use there. But I mean, it was pretty fucking big. But I was going to try to swat it, but I couldn't reach it the way I had everything piled up, and I just couldn't reach far enough. And I was trying to, figure out a way to get something, basically jury rig something to be able to actually hit it. And I almost hit it once, and then when I was about to hit it again, it started to actually go down the wall. But when it's like, it was almost in the perfect position to hit it, but when it started doing that, I guess it like slipped or whatever, and it fell off the wall down on the ground, fucking who knows where, So all that shit I have piled up there, it's just not feasible to get to it. So I went back there and I'm like, all right, that's great. So I gotta think about it. I could fucking like wake up with a spider on my face or whatever bullshit. Awesome. I don't know. I ended up falling back asleep and, woke up real recently. Like maybe an hour or two ago, I guess like a couple hours ago. I didn't see it around, but because of that, before I came out here, I made sure to like look in my boots first, which, that made me think of 2019. Because when I was, in St. Louis the second time and I had that piece of shit roach infested place, I remember, it had roaches all over the place. But there was this one like dresser that was like below the TV next to the bed that I'd never seen them on. So actually, I remember the day I kind of decided that, like, I noticed that. I was like, all right, well, I'm going to set my boots up on there because I've never seen them there before. And I set them there, I go to sleep, and then when I wake up, I like turn around and the first thing I see is a cockroach crawling out of my fucking shoes. It's all right, great. So at that point, I was just like, oh, well, fuck it, I'm just not going to worry about it. And so now I'm just, checking them every time I'm about to put them on, make sure they don't have fucking roaches on them. But yeah, now I'm looking for spiders in my shoes, I guess. That's cool. Well, part of the reason I decided to go to storage was one of the things I had, in that area in front of that wall that made it, kind of got in the way of me trying to reach it. I just had a laundry basket with some crap in it. And I just kind of actually, stuffed it in the trash bags just to get it all kind of collected. And I wiped the thing out because I had a bunch of dust and all that in it. And I just, put the bags with the stuff that was in it back in it and just took it over and set it at storage. I wasn't there for very long. It was like 5 minutes. But most of it for me was, it's like, I don't know, I wanted to sit here and I guess vent, talk about it, what's been on my mind or whatever, but also just filling the air conditioning because, it's starting to get pretty hot. And I mean, the air conditioning in this thing, even on a hot night, dude, it'll be not on that long and it'll be blistering fucking cold in here. Which, I'm not complaining for sure, but as part of it, just sit in the air, just kind of be alone, middle of the night, kind of quiet. And, now I got a little bit of a better way to see that wall that it was on, which, I mean, once it hit the ground, who the fuck knows where it went. But, now I'm on the lookout for bugs more than usual, because of the roach thing that really started for me after I had that place in St. Louis that second time in 2019. Now it seems like every fucking hotel I go to has roaches. And that was never the case before. But one thing I thought about was that in the past, if I went to a hotel, like usually it was during winter. Like even when I was in St. Louis the first time that year, the place I stayed at, again, it was during winter. That second time it was summer, right? It was like, August or whatever, July, August, whatever the fuck. Maybe that has something to do with it. That place I stayed at in Atlanta in 2019 that I went back to in 2023. That first time, dude, that place was immaculate. There were no fucking roaches. And I know I stayed there for a week. It cost me $700. Now, back then, they'd take cash. So, I had a deposit or whatever, but now they don't even do that. and I don't know if I'll really go into that a whole lot in this video, but that part of none of these places taking cash anymore. It's just so it's easier to track you and it's easier to, control you and what you're allowed to buy. And it's just whatever. But so I remember when I tried going back to Seattle a couple years ago, there was a hotel I stayed at there in 2019 that they took cash when I stayed there, but now they don't. Or they didn't, that second time I tried going there a few years later. Well, that's another thing, I'm sitting here trying to talk, so it's got to make my voice all, fucking raspy sounding. I already kind of know that's not going to help at all, but whatever. Oh, that's another thing that this world just, it has to fuck with me in the most petty ways possible. So I know I've brought it up a few videos, like I have a little travel bottle of lotion that I keep in a little Ziploc bag in my, my pocket vest. You know, in case my hands are dried out like they are right now. That's another thing that, for whatever reason, my hands being dry makes it hard for me to breathe or talk. I don't know why that is. It's always been that way my whole fucking life. Naturally, well, you know, just who the fuck knows where it went. I checked my pocket, it's not there anymore. So I guess it just disappeared into the ether like my shit loves to do. I have that happen all the fucking time. I'll have something. I was looking for my shaker bottle to make a protein shake, you know, earlier before I like fell asleep the first time. And it did what always happens, dude. I looked directly at where I knew it was, and it's like it wasn't there. So I go flipping shit around looking for it for a bit, and then I go back and look again where I looked the first time. Now all of a sudden it's there. Like there's no way I couldn't have not seen it there the first time, because it was right where I looked the first time. Like I said, the Chomo verse is like, if you're a person, it just has to fuck with you. And it's like, I haven't been through enough in life, and you gotta just, you know, like I said, just have to be petty about it. Like, these humans aren't petty enough with everything. You know, they're trying to get you murdered just because they don't like looking at you. Just because you dare to exist anywhere near them, right? And, you know, of course, they'll come up with every bullshit excuse they can think of. But what, so what, you know, Ari wasn't feeling that great. And before I decided to do that, I actually thought about just sitting here just to sit here. But I was like, well, if I'm going to be sit here, I may as well do at least a little something, you know. So whatever, I got just a little bit more out of the way. I've been doing that. Like, basically my whole life I've been the type of, I'll try to get everything done all at once, right? And, you know, I just will, you know. Now, part of that is like a practical consideration, where it's like I'm just trying to save gas, save time, whatever, streamline shit, right? You know, when I was with my ex Keith, I remember that, because he was staying at my hotel room. Fuck. Yeah, see? I got fucking whatever that is buzzing around in here aggravating me, and I go to swat it, but of course I forget about this fucking wound on my knuckle, because I'm not the one that put it here. Maybe if you child fucking humans left me the fuck alone, I wouldn't be so fucking angry all the time. And like I said, these pseudo actions, right? Like one of them being pseudocide. Baraka didn't commit suicide. He was murdered by society. Those actions that took place that resulted in his death would not have happened if it weren't for societal evil, right? That's their way to do their, you know, like looking like telepathy or what. It's like there's nothing magical to it. It's just human evil, right? Well, you know, fuck me going and, you know, trying to swat that bug flying around there wouldn't have been an issue if I didn't have a wound on my hand. I did nothing to put there. That's another way it's been fucking with me. Since this has been here, magically it's going to bang my knuckle off everything, doing the same shit I would have done any other time. Now it's going to hit that just to, like I said, this world wants to, like, I'm waiting for salt to just start materializing out of the ether just to pour onto my fucking wound, right? Because that's what this is about. Like, it's almost literally trying to pour salt on the wound. It's at least trying to keep it open. And then, again, part of the censorship, just to throw me off of what I was talking about, just fucking with me. Can't fuck with these criminals, though. Can't fuck with these humans that, you know, like I said, this world is nothing but evil. And I really don't give a fuck if anything hears this and acts like there's a problem with what I said, or it's not a good enough, that shut the fuck up. You humans are so fucking histrionic. It's never some, you know, minor, so to speak, bullshit that's just extra on top of all the heinous atrocities afflicted on you in life. No, for you, that's the worst it's ever been. So yeah, maybe if you're talking about it, you're just a bitch and just need to shut the fuck up. It always, like I said, couldn't just sit here and be miserable, could I? But since I wanted to kind of just sit here anyway, whatever, all right. Now I got a, gigantic spider on the loose. Who the fuck knows where it's at? Well, not only could I at least do something to justify me even sitting here right now, it also got something out of the way so I can just more easily see in case I, fucking see it again. But that was kind of a point. I saw it kind of just, it's like, who the fuck knows where. I might have never saw it if I just hadn't got up and turned around for a second there, right? But I brought up the roach thing partly because it made me think of that. And it's like, now I'm looking at my boots to make sure to go in there or whatever. It made me think of that. But all these hotels that I went to in the past, I mentioned, I can't say for the one in Seattle, but because I ended up deciding not to go, stay at that one again. But that one in Atlanta, this is, part of the bullshit of the false mental schemas and all this shit that this world will use just to fuck with you, and it'll set you up like that. Like, I only went back to that hotel because it was a good experience the first time. Or like that one in Indianapolis I went to. That, again, they were immaculate when I went there. The first time. Atlanta 2019, Indianapolis 2018. But then you go back and now they got fucking roaches in them. Could the weather have part of it, something to do with that? Yeah, sure. The first time for both of those was during winter. And in 2018 in Indianapolis, it was brutally cold. Extremely, ridiculously cold. Now, that's probably really not going to mean much to roaches. Yeah, they would prefer to be somewhere warm, but, if there's enough of them, I'm sure you'd still see them anyway. But then that's another thing I think about. Maybe they were there the whole time and just somebody in the area was just so nasty that they preferred being over there instead, right? Because when I was staying in Atlanta the second time, 2023, a couple years ago, and this is another way that the world will fuck with you. So it already fucked with me to the extent of making me think, oh, that was a good experience the first time, so I'll do that again, just so I can get that chance to fuck with me, right? Just the psychopath bombing like humans do, right? Like, love bombing is just a form of that in a romantic context, right? They'll make it really amazing the first time, just to set you up for that. But, like, it doesn't just have to do that. It has to fuck with me with all again, there's never options for you if you're a person, but it'll make you think that there are. So I thought, okay, I'd like to find a room for rent because, even $1,000 a month is a hell of a lot cheaper than, that thing with the like long-term plan I got was still like $3,000 a month. It's like, dude, if that were an apartment, it cost $500, right? Like, I mean, I like I said, my first apartment was like $600 a month. But like even the second apartment I had, it was only like $150 a month. With the, like I said, income adjusted bullshit. $150 a month was, I mean, it was shit in all its own ways, but it didn't have fucking roaches. But so that, dude, that's 20 times more expensive to be basically 20 times worse. But part of the trickery is, oh, okay, what I got told on the phone is I could get the like long-term plan, so I'm paying less per, I was paying it every week. Now, what I had done before was paying it, that first time in 2019, I got a 2-month plan. I paid all 2 months, or I paid a month at a time, right? So I only had to go in, one time during that to pay anything. Now that thing was only about $1,000 a month. It was, 1047, something like that, which already was more expensive than they told me on the phone, even though I verified it like 3 or 4 times. They made me think it was going to be like 990 something. It's like, no, well, actually, it's secretly, we lied to you. No punishment for us, but we lied to you. That's an extra, $50 that could have been in your pocket, but fuck what you're going through, right? But in this case, the bitch on the phone was like, oh yeah, you get this plan, and it's even a dude without that, it'd probably be 5,000 a month if you were just paying the regular price, like day-to-day price. But the way she was on about it is like, all right, you can pay every week, and you can also cancel every, whenever you want. And so basically the setup that like she was explaining was I could get, 2 or 3 months or whatever was, the price on that, pay, the 1 week portion of that every week. And then, basically any point after that first week I could cancel and I wouldn't owe nothing, right? So conceivably I could have, got a week for the price of, a part of a 2-month plan, but for less than if I just showed up and just paid for a week outright, right? So my idea was to get the lower price and at least have somewhere to be while I find a room for rent, right? So actually this is an attempt to save money. Well, so naturally it has to make sure I don't find anybody until almost literally before I'm about to have to leave out of there anyway. And the 2 months or whatever it was is almost up, right? Like a week before, just to make it pointless, right? And then all the different ways I got fucked over that nobody cares. And when you're being treated so horrifically like I am, everything wants to act like it's powerless to do anything. But the moment they don't like you doing nothing wrong, man, they got all the energy and effort and resources and time and, motherfuckers behind them to inflict their will on you. But if you were suffering needlessly, they'd act like they couldn't do anything. And I'm going through this while these bitch motherfuckers I've dated or whoever, like, they get places to live for free. They don't work for nothing. Even if they had a job, okay, well, all their money is disposable income. So even if they technically, like these dudes, they said that's why they'll just half-ass a minimum wage job because they really don't need the money. All the shit that you would really need money for is already paid for them. They live at home, live with friends, whatever, right? If you're a pretty boy living with mommy and daddy isn't a problem, right? That doesn't count against you. They get all this shit for free on top of getting paid more on average for the same work, on paper, which actually at the job, they don't even do a quarter of that. So really it's as if, it's as if they, got $100 an hour to work for 1 hour or something, right? At the normal productivity, right? Shit like that. And after all that, on top of all of that, they act like this world owes them something. They act like you owe them something, right? They act like you're trying to fuck them over. So I remember my ex Keith, right? He came over to my hotel room that I was paying for, stayed a couple nights. He showed up drunk and he had like alcohol with him. And I remember at a point he saw the Diet Coke I had on like the counter of the kitchenette area, because it's like right next to the bed, right? He's like, oh, could I mix this? Because that can't be a junkie. It's got to taste nice too, right? He wants to fucking start mixing drinks with my soda that I paid for, right? So he's staying in my hotel room. he's eating my food or in this case, drinking my soda, right? And, after that whole chicanery, the second time we spend together, which of course, he'll start pulling this after I waste my gas money and all that shit to go to his place. So I remember when I showed up, I asked him if we could get something to eat. What his very first words he said was, it's like, if you pay for it. Oh, I got to pay for my food. Okay. But you drank my soda for free. You didn't pay me your half of the prorate of those 2 days you stayed in my hotel room. What is it? Oh, your gas money? Well, then you got to pay me half my gas, right? Now, of course, if you brought that up, they'd look at you like you were a piece of shit. So you're ripping me off on top of all, this fucking with me that you're doing. You're the victim, though. This faggot, like the rest of these humans, wants to act like they're a victim of me. Oh, and if I had said that at the time when I just said, oh, I'd absolutely be murdered right now. So that's another thing this faggot wanted to do. Like, they love to give you these stories about how they were supposedly victimized, but you can tell by the story that even though they're trying really hard to make it look like they were the victim, they're absolutely the bad guy in the story. But like one of them, he told me about one of his ex's results with, his mom and dad showing up with guns to like get back his stuff. So basically he fucked with this dude. This dude told him to get out. No, you're not getting your stuff back. Shouldn't have fucked with me if you wanted it back. Well, no, morality's not good enough. Here comes these psychopaths to help their demonic fucking terrorist son usurp morality. And it's like, I've never seen humans show up with guns to protect me. Yeah, so humans only see their societal fiction, their money fiction, guns, and whatever the fuck else it is as something to persecute the innocent with and protect the guilty from consequences of their actions. That's it. That guy I was watching earlier, that I just been thinking about his videos a lot. This is one of the few that, I think might have actually been a person, but he kept saying that in his videos. Wage slaving. Well, I'm tired of wage slaving. I wish I could live in a world where, you don't have to work for stuff and all that. And that's what I keep thinking in my head. It's like, you don't have to. That these humans all get together and say that you have to. But it's a game of pretend. And it's no different than Nazis, their game of pretend, or any other state's game of pretend. It's all fakery. There's no actual valid basis to it. Yeah, it's all made up, but with very real consequences for you. And that just sort of the point of me thinking that it's like, there's no requirement to work, because you'll notice every single one of these terrorists that society loves so much doesn't have to work for anything. They get everything for free. Right? There's like, what's the point of the money fiction? I mean, motherfuckers that are like, they get more money, right? If you're a pretty boy or one of these fucking cunts, you automatically get more money than me. Even if you got paid the same on paper, you're not even expected to do the minimum. I mean, the ugly fucks aren't even I'm expected to do, me doing 4 times what's expected gets me no credit. In fact, for me, that is what's expected. I'm held to a higher standard than even what the job description is, but then these motherfuckers show up, they do a quarter of the minimum. And a lot of times they get paid more than me. Right? It's like, so what's the point of the money fiction, the state fiction, all that? Humans were going to do this selectivity, favoritism shit anyway. The statism shit, money shit's been a few thousand years. They act like it has to be there. But it's like it hasn't even been there for 10% of the existence of the human species. Much less even just bipedal primates, much less primates in general. But it has to be there. And that's the thing. They were going to do that shit no matter what. Well, you don't think they weren't doing that shit for the last 250,000 years? It's just all these fictional paradigms they come up with is just a way to diffuse responsibility, to distance themselves from consequences for their actions, and to protect them from consequences of their actions. So this guy that he actually seems like a good guy, yeah, they're making him the wage slave. The corporate terrorists, that get mad at him when he says he should get paid more than he is because he's worth that much. They get mad about it, like you're supposed to just do a bunch of extra shit for free. And you're already doing it for free anyway because money has no innate value. Like I said, as I've said, you can't counterfeit money because money is counterfeit value. So you're doing a jig for the slave owner, and you're not even really getting anything in return. So it's actually worse than slavery. I mean, it's all slavery, but like the overt slavery motherfuckers are thinking about. I mean, money is overt slavery to me, and it's nothing hiding to me. Maybe that shit's invisible to you humans. But I don't believe that either. It's just too convenient that these social fictions all coalesce to guarantee the persecution of the innocent, right? So if Elliot Rodger goes to the police for, some of these child fucking humans, breaking his leg, well, it happened a couple months ago or whatever, and so the cops, according to him, that's what they said. The cops were like, well, what took you so long to tell us about it? Dude, they would never say that to a bitch. A bitch could accuse you of rape that supposedly happened fucking 100 years ago, right? It absolutely could be that absurd. Like, you couldn't, neither of you were even alive. It doesn't matter. They just make up whatever. Automatically taken as true, right? There ain't no, what took you so long to bring it up when there's these cunts, accusing dudes of rape just to try to get them murdered just because they don't like them. And humans are always desperate for a lynch mob opportunity. They can't ever get together to protect the innocent, but they can sure as hell get together to persecute and murder them, can't they? Well, what took you so long when it's a couple months? They don't ever say that to these cunts. Oh, you got raped, 20 years ago. What took you so long? And, if you were a dude, you could have got raped, 10 minutes ago, and all that's in the past. Can't do nothing about it now, right? Like I said, these humans, you're not victims, all right? They're a bunch of fucking truly just, like, there's not words for them. And so the human species getting flayed and disemboweled and chopped to fucking pieces is infinitely better than they deserve to fucking experience. All the fucking sickening fucking depravity and just their, like, true villainy. If you have a soul, you can't stand being alive in this world, even if your life, directly was, fine. I felt the way I do now my whole life. Because if you have a soul seeing the shit, you're not going to understand why these things are letting it be like, it's because they're a bunch of demonic fucking apes. They're a bunch of vicious little shit rat fucking primates running wild. And nothing was done about them when that was even possible. When doing something could have worked. So it's always mattered to me, even when it didn't affect me. Or even to what extent it did at a point and I just wasn't even aware of it still. Like what? I'm not selfish like these fucking humans. Now I don't give a fuck about anything else because, everything else has spent 34 years not giving a fuck about me. No matter what I did for others. Never mattered for nothing. These humans always want to talk about their karma and this, that, but blah, blah, blah bullshit. But I can point out all the things I've done to earn having everything I want in life, everything I'm fucking owed. It's a moral imperative to give it to me, or you're committing a crime by depriving me of it. That doesn't count for anything though, huh? But I owe these piece of shit humans something just because they want it. This world wants to get in my fucking way with everything, want to prevent me from doing anything, having anything, wants to rob everything from me. Just be a fucking impediment for me. But you gotta facilitate these criminals though, huh? I don't care. Like I said, all the delays and obstacles and all this other evil shit. It's irrelevant, alright? I don't care how long it takes. I don't care how I have to modify my approach to shit. You humans aren't getting away with it with me, alright? You're not. You're not going to terrorize and oppress me and just get away with it. It's not happening. But the world's got to want to fucking prevent me from having anything, even fucking existing, much less any moral outcomes. I said plenty I wanted to do by now. I'm not going to get into why, the last, few days or so, is or was meaningful to me or could have been. But just suffice to say that it's just the Chomoverse has to get in my way on everything. It has to fuck everything up. Right? To whatever fucking degree, just the most petty shit it can come up with in that exact moment. Just any sort of fucking burden on me. And so things I want to fucking try to do or get done, of course, it's not going to happen. Well, it just, like I said, it doesn't matter. I mean, it's going to happen. Right? But if it's not going to happen exactly when I want it, then fucking whatever. I'll just be fucking, as slow and methodical as I need to be. So that's something, like I said, that's something, occasionally I'll see that it's a full moon, and I don't know if it's a full moon tonight. I'm not looking. I don't care. Maybe it is, or close to one. Because sometimes I'll mention that in videos, and that's getting into something I was thinking about. It just, for whatever reason, I noticed while I was driving that there weren't any extra lights on the street that there aren't otherwise, but it just seemed like a lot brighter than normal. And I thought that, it's like, well, maybe visibility is just better tonight, so, it looks brighter. Or whatever, I don't know. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's a full moon or, close to one, whatever. So the sky is just automatically brighter, even though it's the middle of the night. I don't know. But as I mentioned before, anytime I do see that, I always point out how it feels like a time of change. And I don't necessarily believe that, right? It's an interesting thought exercise. I'm not superstitious, but I do notice correlations like that. Like in a lot of my life, it's like I'll just start doing things differently, being different, just being different, getting things done maybe I wouldn't have otherwise, and just notice that it's a full moon. And I'm aware of the, kind of ideas around full moons and, supposedly having some kind of meaning, or it's a time of change or whatever. And maybe it is, I don't know. But I've definitely been changing a lot lately. I've been getting a lot of stuff done. my mindset on a lot of shit has changed. There's a lot of things that, I don't know, I've just, changed a lot, psychologically improved my, positions on stuff in ways that are actually relevant. I'm not interested in the victim blaming of, the emotional state of innocent victims that society loves to do. They want to inflict their toxic positivity on you. I'm not talking about shit like that. I'm talking about modifying my, responses to things in such a way that are productive for me. And overall, as far as that, I'm a lot better off right now. I'm kind of surprised myself at how much I've improved on shit that, matters to me. But maybe that's what I should have been doing before, because that's another thing that's changed, like getting shit done. Like, part of the reason I'm sitting here right now is just doing a little bit at a time, right? Whereas generally, as I said earlier in the video, most of my life I try to get everything done all at once. So maybe you could say I'm a procrastinator or something like that, but I don't really know if I'd call it that. It's more like, maybe to an extent, but also in a lot of ways, it's like I'll time stuff to just do it all at once, if that makes sense. But I mean, that can be counterproductive, and maybe how I've been doing it is better. Just do a little bit at a time, so there's less of a just upfront burden to make me maybe not want to do it if maybe I wouldn't, like I said, maybe I wouldn't have otherwise if I just tried to, spend 4 hours putting stuff up, as opposed to, aside from the driving there, really only take a couple minutes, just real quick, throw something in there, right? Like shit like that. But that was another way the Chomo verse is fucking with me. Now that I've mentioned it, well, the moment I start thinking about going and paying my last exit visit because they want to show up just to taunt me and fuck with me, and mock me and throwing in my face all this shit that they have over me that they don't deserve and know that I want, and they're just dangling in my face just to fuck with me. As soon as I even think about, all right, let's actually deal with this, well, now he's been offline for 2 weeks. And Grindr does show distance updates, even like, he has his distance on there. And if I go different places and check, it will update that. But that's updating their last known location, which that's basically where they were the whole time. The couple weeks prior to that, they were fucking with me. So that's probably where they're at. But still, it has to take that away at the last moment. And then with this thing, there's a lot of shit I could have got done probably months earlier. But this thing had to fuck up, and well, now tonight, I've had to do this a couple times, or a few times in the last several months. I'll go to turn it on and it doesn't start. I have to turn it a second time. So, all right, great. So now it's going to have some fucking. So now if I did go anywhere, now I got to think about this stupid piece of shit all of a sudden not turning on, and I get stranded who knows where, right? Could be a gas station in the middle of nowhere or some bullshit. Who the fuck knows? It would put me in a position like that too, because that's how evil the child molester verse is, right? You already molested me, inflicting life on me without my consent, right? It's like I've already been force fucked into existence. Like, you already done enough evil. But it's like, that's just not enough for you humans. It's like, man, these child fucking police's cars don't ever have to worry about that. So I know it's sad. Why is it that the most depraved human entities always get shit that works, right? To most effectively facilitate their psychotic persecution of the innocent. I always notice it works out like that. So now I gotta think about that. All right, cool. Well, is it going to do that bullshit again when I try to go to the gym? Because remember, now the gym I have to go to, that any time is a lot further away. And never mind, oh, if it just doesn't turn on and now I can't go to the gym. Well, what if I'm at the gym and it doesn't turn on and it's like now I'm like 10, 15 miles away from anything? So it's got to even put that on me, that uncertainty. Like, I don't deal with enough bullshit in life. You know, my last ex thrown it in my face a couple years ago that they got their own place that they don't deserve. They got their own car that they don't deserve. You know, and I think about this. I bet their car works, right? Bet they don't ever have to worry about their shit. So like I said, if I were an evil human, I would get everything for free and everything would always work without question. If something ever did break or whatever, well, it would just fix itself magically. Just to facilitate my evil, right? And I said this years ago to myself in videos like this, and, you know, two different groups who I thought maybe actually got it at the time, which, you know, of course, I think we all know the answer to that now. But either way, that's another part of the false schema trickery. Don't look at this world and see all these demonic psychopaths getting away with it every time, and then on top of it getting life easy. And then look at what they're doing and then try to mimic that, thinking that, well, if I just act like them, I'll get life like them. Nope. Don't even try it. Trust me, that one's a trick. It's no different than, you know, Elliot Rodger or, you know, some incel seeing that stupid assholes get bitches, but missing the point that it's because they're attractive and they just, you know, they're you know, being a piece of shit is, you know, they're just allowed to get away with it to get access to their attractive. It's not the being a piece of shit part that's attractive, but the part that they see is that they're just a stupid asshole, and so they'll try to copy how these, you know, dudes that get women act, and it's like now they're getting fucking, you know, going to prison or whatever for some shit that if an attractive dude had done it, everyone would have been looking the other way. You know, it's like, don't fall for shit like that. What you have to do is you look at this world and you see a disparity like that, where an action rewarded for one is punished for another, and you gotta just acknowledge right then that it has nothing to do with the actions. Something else is going on there. It can't be the actions, or everyone would get the same response for the same action in the same context. So you have to be looking for something else. And in that case, yeah, what it is looks. Although to a greater extent, really, on the most general level, it's just pragmatic utility for these human criminals. Do they benefit from you? Right? It's just attractiveness is considered innately beneficial. But if they're not benefiting from you, you're done. And you know, they see you as a burden no matter how much you do. So no, humans are a burden on people. They said there are no people amongst humans. All right, because being a human is defined by being evil. Or maybe there are. I don't know. I mean, I've yet to find one. The only thing I could think would be maybe like, you know, like truly mentally retarded humans. Because I mean, I've seen, you know, plenty of retarded people. They're not bothering anybody. You know, I mean, maybe if you're a psychopath, you would consider them a burden because, like, they're not, being a slave to benefit the corporate terrorism or, give you some free shit, right? So, no, that's not a burden. That's just called, somebody being tolerable to be around. So they're not bothering anybody. Okay, they need help with stuff. Or, well, you humans need help going the fuck away. And then you cry when you get it. But so, okay, maybe retarded humans are people. Well, okay, well then, if that's all humans were, we're just like mentally retarded, and just okay, maybe they can't do stuff on their own. But I mean, yeah, when's the last time you ever seen a retard, like an actual like legit retard to do some evil shit? When's the last time you ever seen that? But you'll notice, so the one subset of humans that might be people that aren't evil, those are the ones they want to detect it before they're even born so that they can abort it, right? There's no detection for state terrorism or corporate terrorism to abort that. No, you can't abort none of that preemptively, of course. But the ones that are truly not bothering anybody, oh, you got to murder them. It's awful convenient how that works out, right? So that one dude, I've been watching his shit. It's a Muslim guy, and it's all right, cool. Well, if he thinks Allah is the answer, and, all right, well, he's not bothering anybody. He's was nice to talk to. He had nice things to say about me. I, had nice things to say about him. And it's no obsequiousness and ingratiating shit either. He could have had all sorts of flowery shit to say about me, but if he was a piece of shit, it wouldn't matter, right? It's like he actually seemed like a person, But it's like, all right, well, whatever. He just thinks, there's some God or whatever, but he's like not bothering anybody. Dude, I could only dream of a world like that, right? And but I see his videos, and it's like that's the guy that has to slave away for nothing, and has to do this bullshit dance on fucking dating apps with a bunch of cunts who, I'd say like, gay is no different. It's like that trans app. He's talking about trying to talk to women on websites and apps and stuff, and like you got to pay to talk to them. Well, that's what this trans app is like. They expect you to pay. Oh, this is a free app. No, it isn't. You're restricting my access to the most basic functionality to extort fictional currency. What's the point of the dating app where you can't even talk to somebody? No, nobody's paying for that, dude. And on that app, I see it all the time. You'll see hundreds of new profiles get made. Motherfuckers will put a couple pictures up or whatever, and then they'll just never be online again because they realize how stupid and pointless the app is, and they just leave. Right? Nobody's paying for that shit. But you notice it's like so like that dude, he just wants a fucking wife or whatever. But humans have all decided, oh, he's got to, you know, do some bullshit job for nothing, and then take those, those units of fictional currency just to pay for the right to talk to some stupid bitch on the internet that doesn't even guarantee it's going to go anywhere, right? Why don't they start doing these apps that way? They don't get paid till they put you with somebody. How about that? Then, man, I bet your fucking messages and all that shit be going through real fast. I bet you'd be pairing up real fast, wouldn't you? But no, your life and everything you experience is totally meaningless to these fucking criminals over some, like I said, your life for fictional, like I said, it's not even money, really. There's no value to it. So it's actually worse. And then triple worse of how fucking obsessed with it that these humans are. Your life is meaningless to them over some fake money. And then, of course, humans will try to pretend you're hypocritical in that, right? Well, why are you so worried about motherfuckers paying you back or getting what you're owed in this society? Because, again, the money's fictional, but the oppression resultant from it is very real. And it's like, you're not going to rob everything from me and not give it back. All right, to the extent it shouldn't exist, well, but I got to get the benefits of it first, just to equal it out. Then we can worry about undoing that. Do you really think I'm supposed to not get what I'm fucking owed? But you humans, you think you're owed everything, even though, like, the only thing you deserve is to be just totally, like, I don't even know what the word is for it. Just obliterate it. Like, truly, humans have to, in their entirety, go away forever. Or you can't even dream of starting to have any justice in this motherfucking world. Motherfuckers will say no justice, no peace. Well, as long as humans exist, there can't be any justice. Their entire existence, their social fictions are all about forcing injustice. And then they're going to play it off as justice or whatever. Or I've seen motherfuckers in the past go, fuck morality. Fuck morality and all that. I hope they didn't really mean that. I hope they understood the difference, or at least listen to me talk about it. When you say fuck morality, at least what I hope you mean, and what you should mean, is fuck this human social shit that they're trying to pass off as morality, right? Because they want to pretend like it's moral for you to do shit that benefits them or not do shit that benefits them. AKA, they don't want to experience what they deserve to experience in response to their demonic actions. They want to get away with it. Well, of course you're the good guy if you let me get away with it. That's not real morality. Okay, and there can't be more than one morality. There's just morality, or it's either moral or it isn't. All right, it's no Nietzschean bullshit of slave morality, master morality. No, that's all bullshit. It's either morality is either moral or it's not. You don't get to decide what's moral. And these humans know the difference between right and wrong, because their whole society is built on just pretending that evil shit they did somehow magically wasn't. And that's something that I've meant to bring this up a few times, because I've read about this in the past. I remember reading. Well, first of all, let me go ahead and preface that by reiterating something I have mentioned before, that revenge is justice. Okay, somebody does something to you, you do something back to them. That's called justice. If they didn't want something done to them, they shouldn't have fucked with you. All right. But humans don't like justice. They hate morality. They hate justice. So they, again, with their social fiction, they want to put a pejorative on actual justice, and they want to call it revenge, and put all these theatrics around it, these aphorisms and shit like that, right? So when they want to, brag about their cold-hearted barbarity, well, then it's okay, and they'll say shit like justice, revenge is a dish best served cold. Well, yeah, you are cold because you're evil, and you don't do justice, you do vindication. Humans have never performed a just action ever. It's never happened. They're just vindictive. They get enraged when you don't just give them their way, or especially if you dare to stand up to them. And then here come the fucking theatrics, and they want to pass that off as either justice or revenge in a fucking flippant aphoristic context like that of, well, it's okay when I did it. Because revenge is okay when it's them being vindictive and you know, getting away with it on their own fictional legal basis, right? So they'll be an actual criminal by their own definition. And like I said, all just the different levels of getting away with being an actual criminal. They love that shit. They eat that shit up. They, you know, like I said, that's all humans live for. But no, revenge is justice. I don't care what pejoratives they put on it. That's the only justice that exists. If somebody does something to you, you do something to them. Well, humans hate that. Humans want to get away with being evil, right? So like these supposed, no tolerance policies in schools and bullshit like that. So, you're getting bullied, you're getting beat up, and you punch one of them back a single time. Well, now you're getting, punished. And as I've said before, you can't punish morality. You can't be punished for doing nothing wrong. That's called persecution. Humans will play games with that word too. But these zero tolerance policies, they call them, that's just a way for them to help the bullies get away with it. Those things that are eventually going to become state and corporate terrorists. And, like I said, the Jeff Bezoses that are going to murder you, right? When they're not having their little child fucking police do it for them or whatever, right? Yeah, that's where that shit starts. The zero tolerance policy persecutes you for defending yourself. And then they, the aggressor, get the same, punishment, which is nowhere close to what they deserve for what they did. So really, it's a reward. They're showing these kids when they're real young who they're allowed to get away with fucking with or not. And they're more importantly showing you that you better dare not stand up for yourself. Right? Like I said, pure evil. But either way, that other thing I haven't mentioned yet was on that. I remember reading that one time. Something about some study or whatever it was that they were talking about, how motherfuckers that get revenge don't actually usually feel satisfied afterwards or something like that. Well, the definition of revenge aside, which I just covered, let's just take that for granted. Well, even if that were the case, that you did get revenge and you still didn't feel satisfied afterwards, okay, well, a lot of that is just going to be due to the existence of state terrorism. Somebody's going to do evil shit to you, you do something to them in response that you have every right to do. Well, now the state has decided that they gotta, kidnap you or even murder you in response. And they'll be looking for you forever over some shit that if it had got done to you, nobody give a fuck. That's where the lack of satisfaction afterwards comes from. It's because you really didn't get justice. You did the actions to precipitate that, but the state is in the way. Like I said, justice is more about the outcome than anything. All right, well, if I do something to something that did something to me, and now I'm the one that's worried about unjust consequences as a result of that, well then yeah, real justice didn't take place. But that's not a fault of, revenge, if you want to call it that. That's a fault of these human psychopaths, again, doing everything to prevent morality. But circling back around a little bit to the moonlight thing, full moon thing, whatever. Which, that fucking Septic Flesh song, Sunlight, Moonlight, whatever it's called, whatever. Is there another fake corporate terrorist band, bullshit band, figures, right? Sort of like another song I'm about to bring up. Well, anyway, that was a song I listened to a lot that second time in St. Louis in 2019. Working my 2 bullshit jobs and just, laying in that fucking roach-infested piece of shit. Just laying in the bed, watch them go across on the ceiling or the wall or whatever, and just have, music playing on my phone. Yeah, I'd be listening to Septic Flesh a lot. Also, fuck Lovecraft. Lovecraft's just another human child molester too. You go read about him. But yeah, Lovecraft's Death. I'd listen to that one a lot on there. But I thought of the Moonlight, which made me think about what I was going to bring up. But also made me think about that song by that band, because what I was about to bring up was a different band that I was also listening to at that point. And that Septic Flesh song I was listening to a lot, both of those. But then this other band, again, further related by the fact that I find out they're also fake too. And this is one I figured out several years ago. For the same story, one of the most poignant, meaningful songs in that moment. I have it on repeat for weeks or months or whatever, till I go to try to upload it and copyright claimed. Of course. Free advertising is not enough for you. You gotta fuck with my videos. You're not making money off my shit. They're already forcing ads on them anyway. Even if that's not the case, because I'm not helping them out. But part of me, like I said, maybe the Moonlight has something to do with it, that it feels, even though it's dark out, it's just, I don't know, it's just, there was just this weird vibe driving, like, it's like, I don't even know how to describe it. It's like, it's dark, but it feels bright. And then it's like real quiet, and it's like everything's empty, but feels like there's something there. I don't know how to describe what I'm trying to say, but one thing it really evokes in me is just this sense of despair and dread, and just the whole environment. Because I mean, this is 2019, it's about the kind of weather when I was on a Greyhound to St. Louis that second time. And I remember listening, the song that was the other song, not the Septic Flesh stuff, but this particular bus ride, I was listening to the song that I'm mentioning now, this piece of shit other fake band called Flesh Consumed. And, the song is, you'll real quick probably figure out why I would listen to a song called this, but the song is called Staring into the Abyss, which was especially poignant at that moment in 2019. And I'm just, on this Greyhound, middle of the night, we're in the middle of nowhere, driving through nowhere, and it just feels empty. It may as well be an abyss. I mean, it is, right? But that song, which of course, like I said, they're corporate terrorists, and I can't even get a catharsis out of that fucking song anymore. But the way that song sounds, it perfectly encapsulates the way, like, sometimes literally my dreams sound, right? And it's like, I don't really, when I dream, I have nightmares. If I remember it, if I had a dream at all in the first place, which you don't necessarily, just because you're asleep. But if I have a dream and I remember it, it's a nightmare. But some dreams I've had recently, they're really odd, and I don't know exactly how to explain it, but I don't remember anything from the dream, really. But what I do remember is this music playing. And what it sounds like is that Flesh Consumed song, Staring into the Abyss. It sounds a lot like there's a recurring part in that of it. It sounds like violins or something like that. But it's really like atonal or not atonal necessarily, but like dissonant. And the song, it like the parts that play like that, yeah, it absolutely gives, it sounds like what that sense of dread feels like. And then so like I'll have a lot of nightmares where there's nothing really. You're kind of just looking at an environment. Like nothing weird is happening, nothing looks weird, nothing looks off or whatever. But all of a sudden this sense of dread just washes over you. And it's like I wake up and I feel that sense of dread still. And it was like, it's like real life in the first place. Like nothing looks off, but all of a sudden, you know what I mean? You feel like something's off. You can tell something's wrong, even though overtly it's not obvious, right? Like that instinct hits you, and like you know that you're in danger, right? I'll have dreams like that where everything is just a fucking environment, just a building or this or that, like nothing. It's just there's nothing off about it. But just all of a sudden, just get that sense of dread. And well, these dreams I've had recently, I've never had anything like this before. So I remember nothing from the dream, what anything looked like, or even like what was, if it was even what I just described, I don't know. The only thing I remember is the sense of dread I feel, but then also this music playing, like these, like creepy sounding violins or whatever, like that song I mentioned. And of course I wake up from those, and sometimes it's mixed in with some, not necessarily visually apparent, but just the feeling of some kind of body horror shit. I don't know how to describe it, but those whatever they are have been really bothering me lately. I'm not sure exactly what could have precipitated it or spurred it or whatever, but maybe it started for me. Like I've been playing Invisible War lately, and there's a part near the end of the game where that Leo guy that you kind of run into occasionally throughout the game, he's been working with the Omar, and at this point in the game he actually has the suit on, like what they wear, right? And that's what your character says. Oh, almost didn't notice you without, or recognize you with the frog suit, right? Because it kind of looks like some kind of diving suit or something. And Leo is sitting there talking about how he did the first phase and they put in these transskeletal implants and shit like that. But now he's worried. He's trying to avoid them, and he says he hasn't slept in like weeks or whatever because they're talking about how, basically they need all the help they can get or whatever. And normally he would have, a couple weeks or months or whatever to decide if he wanted to go all the way with the, essentially surgery to replace his frontal lobes with whatever turns you into the, the like, beyond literal hive mind that the Omar are. And I don't know, maybe just part of me replaying, because I, like that basically last portion of the game, I've replayed it the most recently. But something about that conversation with Leo there always sticks out in my head. It's like they're basically going to, do like, force surgery on this dude to like turn him into a zombie essentially for their own purposes. This is part of the story arc. He basically figures out the Omar are evil too, right? And I don't know, I'm not doing a good job of really, I mean, I'm saying basically, I don't know, there's more to it than just what I said. Like my words on it aren't going to really reflect it correctly, but just everything, all together, just the aesthetic of the game, the context of it, the visual aesthetic of it, just everything about that part coalesces to just be like true nightmare fuel, I guess. Because I replay that part of the game and it just keeps sticking out. And it just makes me think of, these human societies and what they inflict on the innocent, and more importantly, what they're going to do to you if you don't just go along with it. Do these humans love to terrorize and horrify you and threaten your fucking bodily integrity and everything else if you don't just give them their, like I said, like the Omar are doing in that game. But it's like one of the most phenomenal, fictionalized depictions of just regular ass human behavior. These things have no qualms about mutilating you or whatever else just to get some sick sense of fucking control or whatever. And you know what that part of the game makes me think of a lot is this video I saw where the story of, I'm not buying it, it's just more humans trying to get out of consequences for being evil. But the story provided with the video is that this homeless guy stole a dude's shovel or something. And it's like, okay, well, even if that were the case, the problem is that what the video depicts is this individual taking that shovel and using it to cut the hands off the homeless dude. And, that's one of those videos that humans won't give a fuck. Oh, it's not me, right? But that's one of those things like truly haunts my dreams, right? Like there's, like I said, stuff I read, much less saw 20 plus years ago at this point. It still haunts my dreams. It haunts my being awake. And like, that's one of those, it's the very first time I saw that, I never had to see that video again. But it's like, that is humans. That's what they do. Oh, a homeless guy stole your shovel. Okay, what part of that justifies cutting their fucking hands off? Because, and part of it is I sit there and think, all the things these humans have truly stolen from me. Dude, we're talking tens of thousands directly. Dude, if I cut the hands off one of them, and I had an actual moral justification, we're not talking no shovel getting stolen from me, all right? But it wouldn't be acceptable when it was, but I know full well that fucking video is showing me a motherfucker just, like I said, maiming and mutilating someone who's totally innocent, and they're going to get away with it. And it just is just perfectly emblematic of the social atrocity that is these fucking monkeys. And there's another video. There's a lot of videos I've seen like that, or just shit I've read. Another one of them is, again, I can't say for sure, but the description seems accurate, but is whether it was Russians in Ukraine, Ukraine, or is Ukrainians dealing with a Russian landmine or whatever, it blows up. And one of them gets flung, he's obviously dead. But the other one, like I said, it haunts my dreams. You just see them sitting there on their back with no arms or legs left, right? Just pieces, and just flailing, right? Like a cockroach on its back. And I'm not saying anything about that individual. They might have been a person. I don't know. I'm not making that comparison for anything other than just the visual comparison of what it looked like. And it's like, you imagine that, you're just standing there, all of a sudden, now you're just a limbless torso flailing around until you're finally officially dead. Right? No face, no nothing. And, I don't know. And I said that's another one that haunts my dreams, like a lot of them. But that Omar bit, talking to Leo near the end of Invisible War, that's one. I mean, maybe that's what's haunting my dreams at this point. Because the way I felt, like I said, I was playing the game, I wasn't really thinking a whole lot about it. But the more I replayed that part and really thought about what was transpiring in that dialogue, it just, now I feel about that part of the game the way I feel about those videos or whatever. And like I said, other shit I've seen that, 20 years after the fact or more of, even if it was some like, so it might not have been a video, maybe I just read about it. But the sense I get now if I play that part of Invisible War, think about it, is the same sense of dread I have in those dreams I've been having recently, where there's nothing to them other than just me hearing those, like, creepy sounding, scary sounding violins. I don't know how else to describe that passage, but like I said, that flesh consumed song, Staring into the Abyss, a lot of it is that. And, of course, like I said, they're corporate terrorists, so like I said, I can't even have catharsis on that either. But that's basically, like, I also feel like that to an extent just when it's this time of year, summer. What I'm describing, you might expect that more to be a response during, like, fall or whatever. It's like, oh, Halloween time. Not really for me. Because summer, that's when it's the hottest. It's when the most animals are going to be out. And then there's just some combination of, it's like everything looks empty, but there could be something over there behind the bushes or like whatever, right? It's like, I guess, sort of like that same sense of dread of, like, like the guy in the Twilight Zone episode that just doesn't want to look out the airplane window because of what might be there, right? And then it's also, it's like, it's there, you just don't want it fully confirmed, right? It's like I see reviews of stealth games where, like, that's a big meme in stealth-based video games, right? See, like, you're doing whatever you're doing, and it's like the guard is just like, oh, must have been the wind, right? And you could play that off as, bad game design or just trying to make it easier for the player or this or that, but no, that guy probably doesn't want to know that there's a fucking, special forces, a Splinter Cell, whatever guy in the fucking shadows. He might have even seen you and just pretend he's not there. Maybe he won't kill me, right? Shit like that. A lot of that is just wishful thinking, right? Yeah, it can be productive to an extent. You kind of, literally or metaphorically kind of just cover your eyes and just, oh, if I can't see it, it's not there. Like that can help you to an extent. But I don't know, that's kind of a problem. It's like that environment, it's kind of all right there, right? It's like, maybe it's something's behind the bushes, but you can see the bushes, right? And, I don't know. But I always feel uneasy like that during summer. All the leaves are on shit, right? You can't really see, through stuff or behind stuff like you could different parts of the year, right? But it's like the same feeling I get. And yeah, I don't know. Dreams like that's a new one. I've had the sense of dread before and different shit like that, and maybe I've had the music like that in dreams before, but I've never had it like I've had it recently. where it's like that's all there is to it. Just like nothing to the dream that I can remember other than that fucking music. I don't know. But I've had a lot on my fucking mind lately. Really been thinking a lot. I'm not surprised this video has went 2 hours. Or it looks like 2 hours. I don't know. I guess that's a two because it's, reflection or whatever. I don't know. Sometimes I start to think about kind of like, scary story shit like that. Like something I just thought about, the mirror. Mirrors are such a big part of horror. Probably for that reason. I mean, you think about a mirror. Like, when else would you ever see someone standing in front of you? Except then, right? Like, it's not intuitive to really be okay with it. You just have to get used to it, right? It may be certain bipedal primates or, like other mammals or whatever. Or like, I think some fish or, dolphins can do it, but they're mammals, right? But like, I think fish is, it's just different animals. Maybe they can recognize eventually that what they're actually seeing is themselves. It's like, oh, I touched this part and like so does the other guy, or you know what I mean? And you can sort of figure that out. But I mean, like somebody had to be like the first individual or first set of individuals to really experience a true mirror like that, right? Because I don't mean the water. Like that one's probably easy to figure out. Okay, it's like the water, if it's still enough and this and that. And maybe you could more easily determine that that's you there, right? Oh, fuck, that's what I look like, right? But just an object. It's like, you transport somebody from 100,000 years ago. They would have no real reason to think that the mirror on the wall wasn't just like a hole there and they were like looking at someone else, right? So even if on a conscious level you understand that it's your reflection, on a visceral level you're still uneasy about it, right? And there's so much in like a horror context of seeing something in the mirror, right? And bullshit like that. Whether it's some like monsters or whatever in the mirror, or like in the case of just pure practical, you look in your mirror and there's somebody behind you or something, right? Like shit like that, whatever. Like there's just something innately uneasy about that. And maybe you get used to it for the most part. Maybe you don't want to, look in a mirror in the dark or something. But I don't know. Sometimes I get this kind of the mindset I'm, like in, right? And like weirdly, I don't really usually feel like that actually during Halloween, because that's like when you're supposed to be thinking about bullshit like that, I guess. But it's not the right environment. But you spend enough time, having to look over your shoulder your whole life, like me anyway, and yeah, you're already kind of primed to feel uneasy around, if it's not obviously, motherfucking four walls and a floor and a ceiling, right? And then you're worried about the door, right? But yeah, like sometimes I'll feel like that with mirrors, but there's a lot of games and shit that'll have shit related to that. Like the Max Payne 2 was big on that, and that's just a concept in general, right? The man in the mirror and shit. But I think for a lot of motherfuckers, they just don't like seeing themselves, right? Because the mirror doesn't lie, pretty much. You know, if it's an actual, I mean, we're not talking funhouse mirror, right? We're talking like not distorted regular mirror, right? Um, and humans hate that. They hate having to acknowledge what they are. You know, like I've been recording my own voice since I was like 8 years old. Because I had a cassette recorder when I was a kid, and I was fascinated with that thing. And I mean, with computers or now smartphones for decades now, I've been recording my own voice. I'm fully accustomed to what I sound like. I know what I sound like and this and that. But if you've ever recorded somebody that's not really done that a whole lot, they'll probably have that reaction, don't they? Oh, that doesn't sound like me. It's like, oh, dude, it sounds exactly like you, right? They don't like the idea that they sound like that, right? Or like somebody like saw themselves on TV or whatever. You know what I mean? Like shit like that. But I'm used to what I sound like. I know what I sound like, and so the shit is just like regular for me. But the thing with like video and audio recordings or like mirrors and shit is like it stops these humans from having to acknowledge what they are, and so they start attributing evil shit to mirrors and bullshit like that, right? Or like the ghosts in the camera, the tape or whatever, right? Bullshit. But I don't know. It made me think of a potential you know romantic interest I tried talking to at this point like 5 years ago. They were the type that they actually thought ghosts were real and shit like that. And I mentioned that to them. I do to an extent have now I forget what the term is for it, but basically not necessarily a fear of mirrors, but a fear of like be in the mirror when you look in it, right? Because I told him I would have just weird feelings when I looked into mirrors, and they believe. I'll say she was like a tranny, right? But they were talking, oh, the spirits in the mirror. It's like I told her, I don't know if it's there. I wouldn't. I don't think that there is, but I wouldn't be surprised if there were. I don't know. I'm just for me, it's whatever. If nothing else, it's a nice thought exercise type shit. I don't automatically discount it, right? But she's talking about spirits in the mirror and bullshit, and I was like, well, sometimes I feel weird looking in the mirror, but I've never had anything, you know, bother me or whatever. And then they said something like, oh, that's probably because the spirits can tell that you're like a good soul or whatever, right? So it's like they're there, but they're not fucking with you, right? Kind of thing like that. It's like maybe, I don't know. But one thing that happened for me also my entire life, humans want to act like I don't know myself, or I'm the one with the ego distortion. Do I know exactly what I look like? I know exactly my physical properties, and to an extent of almost nobody else knows as much about themselves as I do, because I like truly introspect. But that's something that happened with me when I was a kid, is like I would actually stare into a mirror. Like I'd be in the bathroom alone and just staring in the mirror, just looking at myself. And doing it long enough, you start to like depersonalize or whatever you want to call it. So what happens is it's sort of like semantic fatigue, where you hear a word so many times it stops sounding like a word, right? It's something like that. You stare at yourself in a mirror long enough, and your recognition of it being you starts to decouple from the actual visual, reflection itself. You stop seeing it as yourself, and you start looking at it as if it's someone else, right? And I remember I'd do that. I'd be looking at myself and I'd be thinking, like I said, like 8 years old or 6, 7, 8 years old. It's like, and I'd be thinking shit like that. It's like, you know, am I me, right? Like, is that me, or like shit like that? It was really weird, but for me, it was more a sense of just, I don't know. I don't know really how to articulate that, but I feel like with humans, they just, that very first instantaneous look into the mirror, see that, and like they're just stuck at that level forever of, they can't believe that it's actually them they're looking at, because that's not how they feel like they should look or something, right? And that's something I would think about. It's like the kind of modern understanding of just how truly predetermined your life is on a looks basis. That couldn't have been something that was determined or observed or whatever 100,000 years ago, right? It's like there had to at least be mirrors and shit like that. I mean, cameras definitely help accelerate that, right? Um, but there would have been no real way to understand, oh, these things are all acting this way towards me because of what I look like, right? And you see what they look like, but you can't see what you look like, right? And you spend hundreds of thousands of years of human evolution, and then on top of millions of years of just general primate evolution of mirrors not existing. Yeah, I guess maybe there's a reason that this idea of hard work paying off and right and wrong and all blah blah bullshit is like actually like biologically ingrained into these fucking primates. And like just basically like a form of Lamarckianism or whatever. Nowadays they call it transgenerational inheritance. Modern science is, evolutionary science, you, you know, now they're basically like, oh, Lamarck was right, but they don't want to admit it, so they call it something else. Right? They don't call it Lamarckianism, but yeah, you inherit that, or at least for the most part. Or even with these humans, it's like you have to have an experience that is so fucking counterthetical to what the claim is to be willing to, because if it just, like I said, if you got even a drastic disparity on a looks-based response thing, even just occasionally, you'd probably explain it away, right? I did, everyone does, everything does, right? People or human. And it's the bootstrapping problem, right? The shit that's there first is the shit that's probably going to be there forever. And it benefited from a lack of this or presence of that. And now it's like cemented, you know. It's like these corporate terrorist organizations, right? These, businesses. They get bootstrapped in at a time when all the regulations weren't there, that if they were trying to do it now would have stopped them, which means their competition never gets off the ground. And now they're here forever, right? Or like Netflix. They got huge at first because you could just give your sign in to anybody and they just go in and now they're watching Netflix, right? And they got huge off of being able to do that and then take it away once they have all the money, right? Like shit like that. Yeah, this would be like an example, like biological bootstrapping. It's just more biological terrorism, like everything else. Just like Leo and Invisible War, they gotta use fear to control you. And they want to trap you like that. Oh, you thought it was this, and well, actually, it's this, that, right? He thought he'd have 2 months or whatever it is, and then he could decide not to if he didn't want to. But now they're telling him, no, no, actually, you have to become an Omar, and we're going to, be cutting your skull open the next time you fall asleep, and you're not going to be able to do anything about it, and then you'll be one of us. Like I said, that's truly horrifying, and I don't know, like I said, that game doesn't get enough credit for what it really is and what it's really representing. But humans really just aren't capable of observing shit like that or connecting the dots like that. But I don't know. I don't know what to do in this world anymore. Like I said, motherfuckers will pretend to like them and this and that, but I actually read all of Elliot Rodgers' stuff, right? His memoirs, his just diaries, all of it, multiple times, start to finish. Because I actually cared. But that's something I always remember, of like him writing shit like that. It's like, I can't believe, like, it really has to be this way. And I said, even if my life, my personal direct experiences was like amazing. Just knowing that this world is the way that it is, and all the fucking heinous atrocities happening every fucking microsecond in this fucking prison reality, it makes it just sickens me. There's not even words for it. Like you want to just like rip your own face off, or just jump off a building, whatever. Just knowing the world the way it is. Like I say, if you had a soul, it wouldn't matter how good your life was. The fact that this shit transpires to any degree would ruin your life too. Or like that one video I mentioned earlier, some homeless dude getting his hands cut off over bullshit or whatever it was. Who cares what really was taking place in the video? Who cares whether he deserved it or not? Like, that's not even the point. The point is that the universe could take a configuration of any of this shit ever happening for any reason. Sickens me. That's what it is. Like I said, I just feel sick all the time. Maybe that's part of it. Maybe there's something else going on with that. I don't know. Maybe it's both. Like I said, even if it was psychopaths getting what they actually deserve every time, the fact that they existed to do shit to deserve justice in the first place is a fucking problem. And true justice is impossible anyway. It doesn't matter what you do to these fucking criminals. That doesn't get back what they took from their fucking victims. I said every one of my oppressors could get motherfucking tortured for eternity. That's not giving me my life back. All the deprivation that they inflicted on me, they deserve to experience it to the closest you could get. But that's still, again, that's part of the terrorism, is like they can't really get what they deserve. And of course the nirvana fallacy, child fucking human response to that is, oh, just let them get away with it, dude. This motherfucking world is just truly debauched. in the most general sense. I don't know. It just I'll put it like that. It's bothering me so much right now to the extent that I essentially invented an excuse to sit here, because I don't do anymore like I used to, of just sitting here just to do something like this. Because I mean, I can just have the thoughts just sitting in front of my computer, right? I don't need to do this, much less I don't even need to vocalize it. But it bothered me so bad to that fucking degree of, like, I essentially just invented an excuse to be sitting here, and also feel like I wasn't, like, just doing this. And I don't know, like, I'm to a point now of, I did my emotional eating bullshit. I mean, I'm back to, 2,000 calories a day, need, a bunch of protein, almost no carbs, bullshit, whatever. Already dropped a ton of water weight. Like, I'm past the point of that now. For me, it's like, the way I'm still feeling is it's how I get sometimes in life, where it's like I'm gonna have to take shit just to make me not be awake, which will be its own problems, because that means I'll have more nightmares. And it's like, dude, there really is no escape. Like there's no escape even in my fucking dreams. You know, uh, escapism. Like, there is no escapism. Playing a video game, whatever, it just doesn't do anything really. And like fantasizing, well, that's also pointless, because my, the best world I could fantasize about is automatically constrained by this physical existence. So it's just more slavery. But it really tells you a lot to just see the afflictions that these humans put on motherfuckers, and just the true evil of existence, right? Like that Neil deGrasse Tyson video I put up. One of the examples of how evil this shit is he gave was the fact that, you breathe and eat through the same hole, so motherfuckers choke to death all the time, right? And I remember that when I was a kid, it overlaps on two things. I was already getting made fun of for being fat, because I'm being bullied and treated so evilly, and I find something to help me deal with that, and it just becomes a physical manifestation of the terrorism that they then just further terrorize me over. And it's literally considered funny to them. Well, that overlap with the part of, several times when I was a kid, I fucking almost choked to death. And so, I remember one time when I was in school, when I was a kid, it's like 5th grade or whatever, we had to write some story of, just, I don't know, like make up a place or like magical world or fucking whatever, right? That was the world I wrote about. It's like a magical world where you could eat whatever you wanted without getting fat, and you would never choke. And motherfuckers can laugh at that if they want to. That just shows how evil they do. That is, it just, that alone, it beyond just so much terror and horror just built into that. Motherfuckers think it's funny till your bitch ass was choking to death, huh? Right? Or you getting made fun of just because of how you look. And all the insane shit these kids did to me they were allowed to get away with. If I did it to them, I'd be fucking dead right now. And then all the school bullying and, the innocent victim daring to respond to it makes me now think of, it wasn't even a video, it was just pictures of just shit related to that. I don't that one I truly don't want to think about. But of course, I first become aware of it on Encyclopedia Dramatica. So for them, it's just a joke. Which just makes it even worse. Because, like, your life is truly nothing to these fucking criminals. And the most sickening depravity and needless misery they can inflict on you is just comedy to them. Till they get what's coming, then they want to shriek about it. Like some injustice is taking place. Like I said, everything y'all did to Elliot Rodger, he didn't get nowhere close to what he was morally justified doing. But y'all want to have candlelight vigils or whatever for his fucking oppressors. Right? Y'all only get mad when your victim does something about it. But you're more than content to just get away with all that evil shit you did your whole life. It's truly disgusting. But that shows you the inflictions, all right, and the afflictions. And, like that one guy I've been watching recently, that's his paradise, right? He believes in Allah, right? He believes in, like you go to paradise or whatever and all that. And for him, paradise is just not having to, be a wage slave, right? Not having to work and all this. So, well, why should you want to, right? Motherfuckers will look at it like, oh, that's it. Like it isn't such unspeakable evil to be forced in that fucking position. It's like if I had you motherfuckers in chains and you were doing shit to benefit me, you'd be mad about it, wouldn't you? Humans always, like I said, humans, if they ever, like, it's just, I don't even know what to say. And there's really no way to describe it, but you know what? If you had a soul, I wouldn't have to. These humans want to do all this fucking evil shit, and they think it's just fine, right? Till they get forced to eat their own shit, then all of a sudden they don't like the taste. You human criminals, you would never, ever accept for yourself going through what you put through the fucking innocent. And, there was a different guy I saw, another one that was sort of a disappointment. Of like they seem like they got it, but of course they're just another human criminal. This one other dude, he mentioned, I never heard anybody else point this out in a video. One of the most astute observations I've ever seen. But then I see all his other bullshit and his behavior towards me specifically is like, how could you get that right and fuck up all that other shit? But that's what he pointed out. I had never heard anybody else really just say it outright like that, right? These humans talk about all this shit that the way it's supposed to be and everything like that, but really what they're saying is that's the way it's supposed to be for you. They would never accept that shit for themselves, right? Like I said, these bitch motherfuckers want to victim blame the homeless and this and that. But bro, if they were on the fucking street, they'd be crying and bitching about how unfairly they were being treated. They'd want motherfuckers to help them. Like I said, that's that fucking primate predator fucking mentality shit, all right? That's that chimpanzee shit. You humans, you're always like that, and they'll say it like that. They'll be so flagrant about it that they'll say, "Oh, better you than me," right? Well, that's why it needs to be you. That's what's so motherfucking villainous about this fucking world is it never is. Or almost never. And if it ever happened one time, that's when shit would be a problem and needs to change, huh? And it's like, y'all, you motherfuckers could have put in truly almost no effort at all and made immense almost incomprehensible improvements to someone's life. You could have given their life nothing but meaning, doing like essentially almost nothing. In a lot of cases, yeah, it's something like that. You just give a motherfucker a place to live. Y'all motherfuckers will pay for a cat to live with you or a dog. Like you won't just pay for their food and everything. Dude, wherever you live, you'll pay them extra so you can have them there. But another bipedal primate, oh, they're a lazy bum, good for nothing, get a job, even though I'd have fucking 2 of them at a time, right, or whatever, right? But you'll pay to give a cat a bunch of shit for free. And then, of course, when one of these humans wants to go around, they'll be the serial killer soon, and that's their story arc, right? Like they start out like torturing cats or shit, right? Like they're Jeffrey Dahmer shit. It's never these motherfuckers' cats, though, is it? Because that would have been almost a moral response by accident. It's like you see these human serial killers are going to be serial killing homeless motherfuckers. Like, don't go serially kill motherfuckers making motherfuckers homeless. That'd make too much sense, wouldn't it? And then what you humans will let motherfuckers get away with just because they're doing it. It's like Jeffrey Dahmer got away with it for so long because he was going after gay dudes. Yeah, he's gay, but we're talking like 13-year-old. It's like that bitch in Taxi Driver, right? Look at how many character analyses there's going to be at Travis Bickle, but none about the pimp that's like literally selling a 12, 13-year-old girl. You hear nothing about that. Okay, well then you see Jeffrey Dahmer. Well, he's killing a bunch of, 13, 14-year-old gay prostitutes. It's like the fact that they're in that position is already an atrocity, and then nobody gives a fuck, so they let it happen. Like they only are worried about Jeffrey Dahmer because the apartment smells bad, right? That's the only thing they're worried about. What affects me, right? And I said, bitch, I said Jeffrey Dahmer, his bitch ass deserved way worse than he got. Like I said, I don't give a fuck if he was bullied in school or this or that. Oh, he was class clown, but you showed that you deserved it. If he had actually been a victim, he wouldn't have done that shit. Not how he did it. It's just another bitch. Like I said, you can tell how like I said, just like these police, right? Yeah, they're serial killers and they're predators because they're cowards. They go after easy targets. They go after the same bullshit, right? Homeless motherfuckers, gay, this, that, right? Whatever. But, humans love their one-sided. Like that's another thing I noticed. Humans want a narrative, and so they'll create their legal fictions to force that narrative, right? So like in a lot of U.S. states, for example, the age of consent for homosexuals is higher than for heterosexuals. Well, why would that be? So you could just pretend a homosexual is a pedophile for something that's okay for a heterosexual. The higher age makes it more likely for you to get that result. And then you can point, oh, see, look, all these homosexuals are pedophiles. What was I saying? Right? Like I said, they'll do trickery like that. That's no different than making shit illegal for a black to do that's okay for a white or whatever. But hey, it's not fashionable to like fags or whatever, so they get away with it. I mean, it's kind of ish, but not it's not okay to it's not fashionable to give a fuck about homosexual people, only homosexual humans. Well, because they know that they're just as evil. And I said, Principius obsta. I said, you black motherfuckers, the very first time you saw a black cop or whatever like that, you should have ended that shit right there. Like the fact that I live in a world with homosexual police running wild, that's the only thing that makes me fucking ashamed to be homosexual, is the idea. I don't even have a superficial trait like that. Don't even try to relate me to these things on that either. That's disgusting. And the fact, if you would have sex with a cop, you are below a child molester. And I said, didn't think it was didn't think it was possible, but you humans find a fucking way, don't you? So humans are beneath vermin, and that's why Nazis were fucking retards, as I've said, right? There's no such thing as subhuman, because nothing is lower than a human. So the phrase subhuman doesn't mean anything. Sub what? It doesn't go any lower. But you see that, right? If a victim did anything about what's being done to them, they'd be an evil piece of shit or whatever, supposedly, right? But then look how many of these cunts force fucking you into existence. Will say shit like, oh, maybe if kids got hit, they'd learn, right? Like they literally want to create a little tiny, organism to be able to beat and torture and all that. And then they'll say some shit, oh, you never hit a woman, right? That's that fake, like I said, that's the pseudo morality that I mentioned earlier in this. That's not morality. That's humans wanting to get away with evil shit. That's anti-morality. So a motherfucker saying fuck morality, I hope what you really mean is fuck what humans are trying to pass off as morality. So it can't be more than one. All right, there's not slave morality, master morality. Yeah, maybe overtly on the just the proxemic level of bullshit claims humans are making. Yeah, maybe to just that extent, but actual morality, no, there's only one. Shit's either moral or it's not. And humans will let shit like that, take a pass. Cunts creating children just to beat them to death, rape them to death, right? Serial killers, that it's only a problem because they're, it's okay because they're going after homosexuals or whatever fictional social strata aren't liked that exact moment, right? Serial killers are super evil unless it's their police being their personal serial killer. Then they love serial killers, right? Like humans are just, like I said, they're just the special pleading species. They're just the evil species. Or they're the most evil, demonic fucking thing that this fucking prison reality has managed to come up with yet. But, I'd much rather have a world filled with 8 billion, Ellie Rogers, Jake Davisons, Frank Jameses, right? Baracas and, Muslim black pill guy, right? And shit like that. Because they wouldn't be bothering me. And without all these humans running wild, their life might be all right. But my problem is sometimes it's truly on a level of, I don't know, things can get mixed up, I'm probably going to just end this recording in a second, but I'll at least mention it. But yeah, I really regret how I treated my interactions with Jake Davison. But it was one of those things is, okay, everyone else just didn't give a fuck about him. And if you pressed them on it, they would probably come up with something like, oh, I didn't know. I had no idea. And I hate how that gets conflated with me in a genuine way of like, I really had no idea what was going on, or that me just not talking to him like he was trying, to like, talk with me could have had effects on him, or led to what he did, or like, I really didn't understand the effects that had. And I hate the idea that I can be truly regretful. But saying that, it would be treated no different than one of these piece of shit humans just trying to get away with doing evil shit on purpose. You know what I mean? But yeah, if it was a bunch of dudes like that, running around in this world, it'd be okay. Like that Muslim black pill guy. I mean, it's probably been 4 or 5 years since he last made videos. His most recent ones I had are 4 years ago. But yeah, if it was just dudes like that, this world would be all right. But instead, you just get the state corporate terrorism, the humans that'll fuck each other to make, you can't get laid, but they'll fuck each other to make kids just to rape to death, and throw in a dumpster or whatever, when they don't have their little, state terrorist death squads going around being serial killers, but, you're a serial killer just for existing, and they don't like looking at you or whatever, right? Like, you have to be guilty of what they're doing just because you don't like look correct. I don't know. I'm just tired of the fucking human evil of this world, and I really don't know what to say anymore. But yeah, everything just feels empty. Even though I've talked for over 2 hours now, I feel like I really haven't said even half of what I really could say or want to say, or am thinking about right now, But I guess I'm just gonna, I don't know, maybe just sit here a little bit, but I don't know. I guess I'll make another video next time I go to the gym. And, since I'll have some caffeine or whatever, maybe I'll be in the mood to make a different kind of video. I don't know. Like I said, this is just what's been on my mind lately. I haven't really wanted to do this. I really want to do more of the, like, gaming related stuff. Like I said, that's why I've left those up, because I'd rather have that on my mind lately. But I don't know if I'll end up doing one again. I don't know. I'm just not in that mindset at this point. But, I'm going to try to keep it more gaming related again, just for my own sake. And, still haven't yet, but still want to do, the video that's sort of more of a deep dive on, like, the engine and, like, gameplay mechanics and all that stuff of, Deus Ex, and then, also, the first game, and then also, Invisible War. Like, talking about, like, technical specifics of, like, Unreal Engine and Unreal Engine 2, and I don't know, just my different, informed insights about level design and, game design and shit like that. I don't know if I'll ever really be able to do that the way I normally do a video, though, because there's just so much to talk about, even within the context of just those games. That might be something I'd really have to kind of more do, sort of like write out sort of like a layout of kind of a general sense of what I want to cover in the video and how to cover it, or, like the sort of like sequence of everything. I don't know. Maybe I won't bother maybe if I ever do that, I'll just wing it like a normal video, or I don't know. I don't know. I don't know anything in this stupid piece of shit world. I'm just tired of everything. Tired of, yeah, I don't know. I'm just tired. So yeah, whatever. I'm just going to go ahead and end the recording here.